I welcome all the participants and learners in today's session. The title of the today's session is Community Construct around social work and through and from social work perspective. The references or the content are like broadly we are going to discuss about the community construct, social work perspective, and we are also going to discuss some of the communities which is of the present day world, right? So community construct from the social work perspective in many represent a valid and meaningful social concept that has found a prominent place in social work practice. So according to the social work dictionary, we have already discussed or defined the community. What does this community means? Here in this, effective arguments have been made by several academicians supporting the idea that community should be the core of all social work practices. Here this is very important. First is we are talking about the community as a people, then community as a social system, then community as local, global, virtual networks, community as an arena of power and conflict, community as ecological system. Let's discuss one by one in detail. So first is community as people. Community as people here means a socio-demographic view in the description of analyzing society. In social work literature, the term community is used to denote a particular or geographical unit, or in a social work terminology, it is used to represent a target population within a certain geographical location. So it is a target population, maybe the whole community, maybe a particular portion of that community, particular community within that community, maybe a scheduled caste, maybe that could be a women or all. So it could be any rural, urban, tribal, slum communities, or women, peasants, youth, children, migrants, LGBTQ, or aging population within the same community, or it could be a whole community. This means that social worker focuses on specific groups of people who share certain characteristics or challenges. So just community as people, we look into that. So a category of disadvantaged people like homeless individuals in a city who do not have access to shelter or social services. They may not be formally organized but share common struggles and need outreach and support from social workers. So community as a category of disadvantaged people means this refer to the unorganized groups of individuals who face challenges and require assistance. They group may lack resources, support system, or representation. It could be anyone. It could be homeless individual. It could be migrants community. Right. So any disadvantaged community which is having which needs some kind of support system and they lack resources. Next is about the community of interest. This describes organized interest association that advocate for specific causes or issues representing the collective interest of their members, like local community health, like LGBTQ group, advocacy group, organize. So social worker can organize the events and then support them in or facilitate them in their programs and policies, and then in helping them out in number of the issues they have. Or next one is the service community, a local community health coalition that include healthcare providers, social workers, and community members working together to provide health education, screening, and resources for low-income families. Right. So service community. This term refers to any organized network of individuals within a community. We can provide or access professional services to assist those in needs. Last one is a municipality. It's about a city's social services department that collaborates with local non-profit schools and community centers to provide comprehensive support for families in need, such as food assistance, housing program, and educational resources. So this concept refers to the defined social space where relationships are built between service providers and the disadvantaged, facilitating the establishment of interest and action that supports community needs. So actually humans are indeed the center of social work intervention at any cost. So by focusing on the individual needs, strengths, and context, social worker can facilitate meaningful change and enhance well-being. This human-centered approach not only addresses immediate concerns but also promote empowerment, resilience, and social justice in the broader community. Community as people approach in social work could be, further explained or by understanding the principle of individualization. So its principle of individualization in social work emphasizes the importance of recognizing and responding to the unique needs, strength, and circumstances of each individual. When this principle is related to the concept of community as people, it highlights how social worker can effectively engage with and support individuals with their unique requirement in their community context. right? So like we can go to the community and maximize their engagement and assessment, facilitating collective actions. We can also intervene with their strength based intervention. Culturally component practices we have to go with. Advocacy and social justice may be required at particular community. Developing support system is very much important, like that to go and introduce a self-help group or microfinancing there, and to form the self-help groups and all. And likewise, there are a lot of programs, maybe by the governments or by the some international agencies or the national agency. Evaluation and feedback is also important while we are going with the people approach in a social work, so to gauge the success and the failure of any program. Now, next is about the community as a social system. So, community as a social system means it's a, usually general system theory is used by social workers to understand the meaning of the phenomena of the encounter in social reality. General system theory is actually the subset of system theories that focuses on living entities, from microorganisms to societies. Like I just have to explain here that any community as a social system is like that. Community is considered to be as a system which lies in some supra system, okay, and is constituted of number of subsystem. They may interdependent to each other. So any kind of the issues and problem lies in one subsystem, it is going to affect to other subsystem, and so to the other, and so to the other, and finally affected to the whole community. So this way we could say that taking community as a community from the social system perspective is help you out into understanding the how understanding the larger phenomena. So if you look into any kind of the problem that may be at the macro level, but you have to go from the social system perspective, and then you can identify the micro level concerned micro level factors behind that macro level of the problem. Social workers need to critically examine how the subsystems meet or fail to meet the needs of their client groups. Tools that could be used here are the community assessment, which can identify the community needs as well as community strength. This assumes that community is composed, this system approach assumes that community is composed of set of subsystems, as I've already told you, that perform specialized functions that meet the needs of the entire community. Maybe that subsystem is a economic subsystem, or you could say the religious subsystem, or it could be a family subsystem, or governing subsystem. It could be anything, or health subsystem. So if any problem arises, so it is going to affect the whole community, and if it has been fulfilled the needs of one subsystem, so it is actually affected to the entire community. The action of those subsystems are seen as coordinated and integrated in ways that benefit the community as a whole. So taking into this subsystem not alone, always think that this subsystem lies within subsystem. So any changes in this subsystem is going to affect the whole system. Function of the community as a social system that we have already discussed in the last sessions. So we are not going to discuss right now here, as the Warrens has talked about that functions of any community as a social system, if we look into that. So these are the 5 subsystems: that production, distribution, consumption, socialization, social control, social participation, mutual support. You just imagine all these 5 are interrelated to each other. If you are good socialized, social control is so much related to that, and then you participate more, you will be develop more kind of the mutual support to each other, right? If it is all going well, so in the community, the production, distribution, consumption is going in a very right direction, right manner, because there is a mutual support. Everyone is actually concerned about each other. So these all 5 functions are so much interrelated to each other, and creating a good kind of the system. If any problem arises, if there is a lack of control in that community, it is going to affect to other production, distribution. Maybe people are not participating in them. So if the participation is lacking, so again the control is not been there, mutual support is lacking, and then the rest of the issues will arise. So here, this is what the social functions are required for survival and perpetuation of community and their members. Community fulfills the functions through a pattern of formal and informal organizations and groups. Moving ahead, next is the community as networks. Because I have already discussed the community or the virtual community. This is a subset of that. This is a aspect which we already discussed. So we have to discuss here virtual community as a network community. So network community could be a virtual community and could not be. I mean, goes beyond that. So we all witnessed that how this technological revolution began in 1970s actually sprint and changed the world so much. As we know, industrial society had many different social culture and institutional manifestation. Likewise, the network society has many different manifestation as well, depending on country, culture, history, and institution. At the local level, planners and citizens groups are trying to reconstruct urban life. The challenges is to reconstruct society through the practice of living together in the process of communicating and each other in the urban civilization. So this power networking is transforming the way we perceive, organize, manage, produce, consumes, fight and counter fight, affecting almost every aspect of social life. The interplay of the information technology revolution, the globalization process, and the advent of networking as a dominant social mode of organization creates a new social structure, the network society. So after the invent of these three, technological revolution, the very first, then the globalization that connect the whole world together, and the last one is about the networking. As the globalization without networking had no meaning and have no meaning. So, and again, networking for the globalization, information technologies is required. So after, looking into all these three and coming together, all these three, technology revolution, globalization, information technology, a new kind of the social construct has been there. Whatever the, fashion of China that is maybe accepted in India, whatever the viewpoint of India could be accepted by any other country, like in Canada or in Germany or any other country. So it is like after the globalization, the social construct or the social structure of the society has been somehow is became so globalized, or you could say the overall the fashions and the culture of our metropolitan cities are somehow similar to every other metropolitan countries of this world, of any other country of the world. So there are several examples. We also use this network or virtual networking or information technology, like many organizations like Violence Against Women India, an online platform that raises awareness about gender-based violence and helps survivors with support. Sakhi for Women in another organization who offers help and resources to women who have been victim of violence, including internet campaigns to raise awareness about domestic abuse. So we cannot, this is very strong present day, we could say that instrument that brings changes into the community overall construct and their process. So moving ahead, next one from is about the ecological system from the social perspective, how ecological system actually construct our community. So social work ecological model emphasizes the importance of understanding individuals in the context of their environment. This model often describes person in environment, right? Acknowledges that a person's behavior as well as being are significantly significantly influenced by the various systems and contexts they interact with, including families, communities, and larger societal structure. So you cannot think a person in isolation. We always analyze person in environment, wherever on whichever community he and she belongs to, that is totally impacted to that overall ability and then perception and even to the problem of that person. So here the community means we have to look from the person's in environment perspective. So person in environment perspective is what this concept recognizes that individual experiences cannot be understood in isolation. Instead, they are deeply embedded with the web of relationship and environments, including social, economic, cultural, or physical factors. So whatever the problem with that person or with that community, we have to look with with the interactions the community is having or the person is having, whichever our client, whether it is an individual or as a community as a whole, as a client. So we have to look into that community in the context of the environment. So in which state that community is lying, in which district that is lying. So what are the policies the community is having. So understand my point. So this is what the community in environment. So we can twist this person in environment to the community in environment. So likewise, right? And then communities as object of intervention. Communities as an object of intervention means if you have to bring changes into the individual's life, so we have to bring their environment. We have to analyze what is the problematic thing happen around that individual. So persons in environment here, totally we have to look into that, because he is and she is not living in isolation. So here the community plays very important role in socializing them, or whatever the problem he and she is having her. So this is what the community is as an object of intervention to change the problem, to bring the changes, or to resolve the issues of that particular client. We have to bring changes into the into community and that particular subsystem of the system which is affected to that client. So the ecological model places equal importance on communities as targeted for social work intervention. While traditional models often focus primarily on individuals or families, this approach acknowledges that improving community conditions can have significant positive impact on individual well-being. We could also say that it is a macro level intervention, right? Micro problem, but we are moving from the macro level intervention. When the community would change, there is going to change the problem of that individuals living in that community. Next is the multi-level intervention. So definitely it's talking about the same. The ecological model encourages social worker to engage at multiple levels, from individual counseling to community development and all. Then collaboration and partnership, strength-based approach. Strength-based approach, this model emphasizes a strength-based perspective, focusing not just a problem but also on the resources and resilience present within individual, families and community, right? So that is what the strength, identify the strength, and we have to work on those strength. If it is forgotten somewhere, or means it is hidden somewhere, we have to try to take it out, or to make them understand that he and she is having that kind of the power, and then strength, and use those strength and channelize those strength is what the professional demands here. Collaboration and partnership, definitely as the problem is of is in a community, that is going to affect the individual. But if the community is in a problem, so collaboration and participation is very important. So for that, you have first to identify what are the related policies and programs and then resources available in and around and outside the community. So to collaborate with them and to make a partnership of those resources and facilities within community and outside the community. So here the ecological system, community is seen as having close interrelationship with environment and in symbiotic manner. Here environment means social environment, as could be a physical environment, right? So here the this is also could be defined as a geocultural perspective, whereas a physical feature, land use pattern and distribution services of a specific location interact with the community, its population characteristics such as size, density, diversity and technology, production, goods and services. So equilibrium is achieved only when there is a geocultural perspective, or it is in everything is intact in their right position. So land use patterns is, and then distribution of services as the physical features has to be good of and they are interacting with the kind of the population there, the characteristic, size, density, diversity. If someone living in the hilly regions, so again there are certain lots of demands for the survival of those areas. So whether the humans living there, or if someone wants to migrate and settle over there, it's difficult for them. So again habitants, and then the kind of the physical thing is so much impacted to the social aspect of the life. Ecological perspective also enables social workers to understand the community structures emergence through the dynamic process like competition between various groups of common pool resources, dominance, centralization, concentration, succession and segregation, wherein everyone they could have moved to new areas, they cannot because of antipathy by other groups, the subgroups function is isolated. These enable us to understand the relationship between the physical and social environment of the community, further the social structure of the community as it evolves over time, and then corrective needed become immediately visible, and also suggest the type of intervention that could be carried out. Last one is the ecological system theory. One more. This ecological system theory could be applied by the social worker as for through assessment, intervention, policy advocacy, program development, and a holistic intervention. Community as an arena of power and conflict. So communities is seen as arena where competition groups are constantly engaged in any kind of the conflict over power and the control of scarce resources. Some groups, often based on social class, caste, religious, linguistics and regional affiliation, dominate over other groups. There is constant process of negotiation and confrontation to fulfill the basic need by those who are involved in. So it suggests that conflict and changes are characteristic of every community. because it's about the bring powers and politics to the force. So everyone in the community maybe participate in directly or indirectly into this whole politics of power politics. The conflicts of interest and disagreement as well as domination are not emphasized in the ecological system. Even though there is acknowledgement of power process of domination, concentration and centralization, there is not much thought provided on how to deal with the differences and inequitable distribution of resources. So because of the different kind of the power in politics of the community, someone is having the more control over certain power and another is not on the resources as well. So there is always a kind of inequitable distribution of the resources is there, and it could create a lot of the problem in particular community. So that is also the kind of intervention here the social worker brings about changes in the community to enable those with less power to better meet their needs, to make their voice to be heard. This is again very important. So community as an arena of power and conflict, we always go in community, we always have hypothesis that we go with the assumption that there are definitely some kind of the conflict is there, there's some kind of the power structure there. So first to understand the power structure and to identify the kind of conflicts, and then accordingly we will work on those. Some emerging communities of community for community work like the online community. In the present day, we have discussed so much on this, like this is an emerging kind of the community. We have, in the context of social media, appeal to young people, many, this is going to be a problematic in coming days and even today. So like cyberbullying, the issues of the cyberbullying, misinformation, echo chambers, privacy concern, mental health impact, addiction, exploitation, manipulation, there are a lot issues and associated with online communities. So this is the new area where the social worker can work on, and this is a new type of the community where to think on, and a new kind of the social construct has been constructed around these online communities. And migrant and refugee communities, so again they have a different sets of the problem. Like migrant and refugee communities present very unique challenges like diversity, because they are different from the host community. Vulnerability, they are vulnerable because they are not aware about their surroundings and they are not known to others as well. Resilience, again, is and opportunities for social worker intervention. There are a lot of opportunities and social worker can do a lot here, like cultural competence, just to create more competency. A lot of the organization, they are working with the migrants, particularly with the refugee communities, so just to make them more comfortable in the host communities through providing training and education. Empowerment, so it's again so giving their rights, not exactly that kind of the rights which as a citizen is having, rather but for the migrants, empowerment is important to just to give in the health empowerment kind of things, and then social empowerment kind of things. Better housing conditions should be given to them. So this is what, and the social worker should go with the holistic approach, means taking every aspect of their migrants and refugee communities intact, because they have different sets of the problem and all the problem is so much interrelated of their status of being migrant and refugee. So we have to go with all the aspects together. So a comprehensive approach that is essential to addressing not just immediate needs like food, water and shelter, but also concern for the problems which is coming in the future. How to educate them, what kind of the employments they are good in, and so how to facilitate with the different kind of the employment to support their mental health aspects, because they are away from their homes, so they are lacking in number of the things like that. They don't have the social control, they don't have the kind of the we feeling with the host community. So this all are so if in the absence of these things, we don't actually realize the importance of these, but whoever is lost those actually are so much in the stress and they have in a depression. So mental health aspect is also important to look after for the migrants and the refugee community. And devastated communities, any communities which is suffering from any kind of the natural disasters, or having the pain or loss, or any community which is declining economies, civil unrest, so even health crisis, like during the corona period. So all the world actually was as considered to be as devastated communities. So particularly in some districts, some areas were more affected. So what social worker can do? So community engagement, mental health support at the time of the any community which is at the verge of at the death or something, like they had a lot of pain or loss. So economic development, infrastructure repair, particularly if any community is suffering from any natural catastrophe. So these things are so much required. Infrastructure repair, further rehabilitation, right? So it could be divided into the cure, care, cure, and rehabilitation. So first thing, at the time of the devastation, at the time of the crisis, you have to go with the care, and you have to go with the cure. But later on, you have to think about the development for their future sustenance, for their future survival. Okay, so next kind, another kind of the communities like the international communities. International communities, again, after the globalization, the problem of one corner of the world became the problem of other corner of the world. So there are a lot of the communities has been emerged to look after the and the forums has been formed at the international level, so look after the issues and the problem which has been affected to majority of the community in the world. Like again, if I take the example of immigrants community and all, so like global collaboration, education, and focus on global issues like human rights, disaster relief, cultural competence, understanding diversity, tailored interventions, and then knowledge exchange, education and training like capacity building, knowledge exchange, policy advocacy, influencing global policy, sustainable development goals. So there are a lot of the international communities and association or group of individuals that work beyond national boundaries to promote cooperation and links between many nations and culture. So there are many international communities as well, right? Next to the business communities, here I just want to give the example of like the cooperatives and the self-help group. This is a new kind of the emerging communities, and the social enterprises, social entrepreneurs groups. So how to deal with the issues with this community is also the concern for the social workers. Grey communities, as the population is graying with and population, the grey population has been growing in numbers, means definitely it's a good indicator, good indicator for the good health and all. So but even though they have their own issues, the older generation and aging population is having their own issues like social isolation, limited resources, health need, socio-economic need. So what social worker can do, that advocacy for them, support services like Helpage India is doing very wonderful activities with this community of grey communities. Community engagement, how much you have to utilize them and maximize their community engagements to develop the kind of confidence and self-confidence. So collaborative approaches with a different organization we can do. So actually this is again a population which is so much in need of. LGBTQ communities like lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and other identities that fall under the range of sexual orientation and gender identity are all included in the LGBTQ communities. These vibrant, varied groups fight for their social acceptability, representation, and rights. So we also have to work for this kind of the communities, and the faces many challenges like discrimination and stigma, mental health issues, legal and policy barriers, access to healthcare. These are the many issues. So what social worker can do, that advocacy, support system, education and awareness, crisis intervention, creating inclusive spaces for them. I mean, to create again, it's about the social construct. You have to construct a new kind of the society where they are going to be accepted more easily, with more open hearts. Resource access and intersectionality means again resource access. This is one issue with them, is that they are not accessible for many resources, for many stigmas develop and around them. So this is all about this particular topic of community construct from the social work perspective, and very much thankful for participating here to listening this topic. I hope you understand this whole topic. So together these perspective, earlier session on the social this community perspective from the sociological community construct from the sociological perspective, and then social perspective we have discussed in the last session, and in today's present session we are talking about the community construct from the social work perspective, as well as we also have discussed about the modern day communities, which is also a kind of the communities which is present today, and we have to look after those communities, and we have to work and develop some kind of the strategies to intervene into this, because every community is having their own way of approach and way of understanding, and every community is having their own different set of structure and dynamics. So together these perspective advocate for holistic view of community, using practitioners and policymakers to consider both the physical and rational aspects of social life. By doing so, we can develop more effective intervention and foster intervention that promote equity and cohesion. Ultimately, recognizing the social construction of community empower us to engage meaningful with diverse populations, nurturing inclusive spaces, and support individual and communal growth. Thank you so much. And this is what the reference is for today's lecture. Thank you.